Oh, another week, and some more coffee being made with the.
Hey, you got your espresso maker out?
Yeah, I got some real coffee. We'll put some actual coffee in here, so we don't upset everybody about coffee. There we go. Right, pleasant midday-ish coffee. Right, well, what have we been doing? A lot this week, an awful lot. So many things, I'm going to struggle to remember them all. So I think we'll probably have a wander over into the workshop and have a look at a Manta stuff. This is a car that we haven't done a full build on this car. It's the car, the body shell work and the paint work and some of the initial build work was carried out on this car by our customer. He did a very nice job of it, actually. He brought it to us originally for an axle change, to have a different axle fitted to it. We've put a 4-linked or 5-linked 4HA axle in it. We did that initially, and then he talked about a different engine, putting an XE in it, and then the spec crept, and it ended up being a turbo spec engine, and it's ended up with a Borg Warner EFR series turbo, T5 gearbox, 5-link 4HA axle, various other bits of work done to it. It was put together initially by us several years ago, actually. It had gone back to the customer and then to Northampton Motorsport for some further work, where it had a Life Racing ECU fitted, amongst other things, and traction control added and various. And then it's come back to us for a few more little tweaks and bits and bobs before it goes back to Northampton Motorsport for a full mapping session on boost. It's been run up normally aspirated. It's running a set of throttle bodies with a pressure plenum over them that we fabricated. It's going back now for the full boost mapping, which will be interesting. We don't know what to expect. It'll be over 400 horsepower. Beyond that, we don't really know. The engine's not a particularly adventurous spec, so it won't be a lot more, but we'll see. Somewhere between 400 and 500 horsepower. the dyno will tell all on that. We've got enough fuel capacity on it for 500, so we'll see where that goes. So yeah, we've been doing a few jobs on that, just getting odds and ends tidied up really and bits sorted out so that it can go onto the rolling road for the full mapping session. So that's probably the first thing to touch on. A few little bits have happened on the Merc, but I won't dwell on those. They're only been more minor bits because we've had a lot of work on with the Cortina. Pretty much been all hands to the pump with the Cortina because that's going to the customer tomorrow. So we're had a pretty tight schedule on that. The sun's come out now, so we'll be getting some shakedown driving and a bit of a test run in the next not many minutes, I think. James is currently working on parts for the Cortina. Dean is upstairs making trim parts for the Cortina. He's currently trimming the seats. James is sorting out various parts to finish the trim work on the seats. We've got one seat in the car, one seat out, so that we can actually still do the test driving alongside the trim work. Just a huge amount of work's been done on that. We'll touch on that again when we go next door because we can see the car whilst we talk about it. So if we wander through, we'll go into the metalwork and noise area, and we'll be able to see what's been occurring in here. I think we might be best to touch on the Cortina first, actually, in here. Currently undergoing spanner check, various post-initial shakedown sort of checks. But by initial shakedown, it's pretty much just been a drive around the yard, sorting out a few little tweaks and bits and bobs on that. Cal's going to take this out on the road within the next hour, I think, to check, make sure nothing falls off, make sure we've not missed anything. I don't think we have, but make sure we've not missed anything. Adam's going around doing the checklist at the moment. We do a double check checklist. Everything's all fasteners are paint marked. All critical parts are checked by 2 people. Adam's just going around doing the final check on that now, making sure that we've not missed anything. But yeah, it's coming together, but it's been a bit hectic. But we're approaching the final furlong. Whereabouts is this? Just all final spanner check? Really now at the moment? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So we're on the cusp of it going out of the door. So it's very much live at this point. We're probably get a shot of over the top of it in a sec, but it's yeah. As you obviously it was out and about last weekend. Weekend before last. It was out and about being filmed. Was that last weekend or the weekend before? Lose track. Weekend before last, yeah. It was out over at Prescott Hill Climb. You might have seen it on Harry's Garage video there as well. That was the first time the owner had seen it since it was bare metal, so that was quite an exciting time. But he's coming to collect it tomorrow. So yeah, we're at the final hurdles on that now. We're happy, I think, with where everything's at. So we'll move on. I'm going to swing around and make filming awkward and head this way. We'll move on back to the Morris now, just to make your life really difficult. We'll head over here. Scott's been working on boot floor, various bits of the boot floor, but now on the actual centre section of the boot floor, which we've had to put a bulge in to clear the silencer. We've literally just stamped this. We've just put another little M in to match the one in the front bulkhead. This has been notched out. I'm going to sneeze. This has been notched out to clear the silencer. We've made a little mock-up silencer, which is somewhere hiding. Oh, it's in the back. Scott's made a little cardboard and wood silencer based on what the largest silencer the largest silencer ends that Simpson exhausts have got the tooling for, so we've worked on that basis on the grounds that this is going to be the only silencer on the car. We're going to double pass it so we can hopefully get a fair amount of silencing out of it. But in order to make room for that, we needed a notch in the boot floor to allow us some height clearance without dropping the silencer too low to the floor. So that's all worked out really nicely. It's a nice little bit of fabrication. Scott's done a nice job of it, so yeah, that's all good. That's been going on there, and then on the front, I'll reverse my way around here. I've been working on wing, which we've got to a reasonable stage with now. It's certainly some way from a finished article, but we were trying to work out a way of widening the body without having to modify the door. Pardon me, I'm going to sneeze. No, I'm not going to sneeze. We didn't really want to have to modify the door. If we need to, we will. But if we modify the door, we're going to need to modify the door hinges as well, because of the way the door opens, the centre point of the hinges, the hinge point will need to be moved outboard. We don't really want to do that. And we also wanted to try and make the car, we wanted to try and build on the curves that a Morris Minor already has. It's very easy if you modify the width of a Morris to make it look very slab-sided and detract from the original look of the car. So we wanted to add sort of muscularity to the original curves, hence the way we've done this, but then brought it back into the original door line. This area here isn't right. There's more work needed there. This has got to be wire edge, so this lip is too big at the minute. That's going to be taken back in by about 15 millimetres for a wire edge. We're still not sure whether that's right. We're going to have to do it to know, really. We're short of doing a full clay model or a full mock-up, which would take as long as making the steel wing. We're not quite sure. So I'm going to get that area right and then wire edge it. Well, then basically wire edge it and see where we go. I can't do the finished wire edging until I've done the front section, because I've had to split the wing. I can't get enough crown on this front section. I haven't got the capacity to shrink enough. You need a much more powerful power shrinker, really, to get enough shrink on that section. So I've split it. We're going to split the wing there, and the front section down to this split line here will be a separate piece. I'll wheel that up separately, and then the air dam, there's going to be a bolted joint here, and then the air dam is going to come across and sandwich bolt up there. There'll be a sealer line joint there. Obviously, once we're happy with all this side, then I can take profiles off this side and mirror that to do the wing the other side. At the rear, we're going to split the wing down the original sort of shoulder line, this point, but on the rear wing, widen it there with a very slightly curved piece, which I'll wheel up, and then we're going to flare the sill into that wing on the back. So we've got a reasonable idea on the back, which is why we started with the front, because the front was the area where we were less sure of how we were going to tackle it. So that's the reason we've started with the front. I always like to start with the difficult bit, because then it feels nicer when you get to the easy bit. So yeah, we're doing well on that. Scott's also been finishing off a few bits inside the car on the transmission tunnel. Some bits that don't look particularly impressive, but are actually really quite difficult to do, which are the flare sections where the transmission tunnel flares out. He's been making a panel which welds along the centre line of the tube, so the templating's got to be very, very accurate, and it's on a compound curve. So it was quite tricky, really. I was originally weighing up doing those bits in composite. We're still not sure on the main transmission tunnel. I was thinking about doing them in composite. We're still not quite decided yet, so that's up in the air. But yeah, good progress. I'm just basically the next week and a half probably going to be wheeling stuff because I've got to finish this wing. There's probably another day of work to do in this wing before I can then finalise the front then do the front sections, get happy with that. If we're happy with that and we try the door on and we're happy with everything there, then it's mirroring it all to the other side, which is not a lot quicker than doing the initial stuff, to be honest. So yeah, so that's where we are with Morris. We'll wander on to Mustang. Mustang's also progressed a long way, but just to mix things up as we're walking over there, such as the frenetic activity on the Cortina, that Stu's also been roped in to work on that. Stu's working out. We've decided to go for the old CAD technique, just to show we don't always use computer-aided design. We're doing a bit of cardboard-aided design it's actually going to be quicker in this instance. Stu's making some shaped pieces for the rear of the carbon seats, which will act as a finisher for the trim, but they'll also act as a retainer for the harnesses. Because they're low back seats, the harnesses will tend, if you take them off, will just fall off the seat and be difficult to access. So he's doing some little retainers to hold the harnesses in a convenient place, stop them slipping off your shoulders or moving out of the way, but also acts as a nice little trim finisher on the seat as well. Are we going to be able to hear with that sander going? Yeah. In terms of the Mustang, Stu's been very busy on that. The first and most obvious change is that the roof's been cut off. That's a fairly dramatic change. He's split the roof off around the edges. Still got to sort out taking off the drip rails yet. The drip rails are a bit of a problem on the car because you can't actually buy replacement drip rails for the coupe, only the fastback. Now we've bought a set for the fastback, which we're going to modify and reprofile, but we're not quite sure whether they're long enough until we get them. We're waiting for them. They've got to come from the States, and there's been a bit of a delay. But we're getting a set of those. We've got to modify. There's still some question marks on that, but the decision we've made is we're going to blast and zinc spray and epoxy prime the car before the roof goes on, because we want to blast and prime the inner structure of the roof. So we've swapped round our order of events a little bit. Normally we finish all the metal work before we get to that stage. On this we've decided we're going to do it with the roof off to enable the inside of the roof to be treated, and then we'll just strip the coating back where the spot welds have got to be. So yeah, that's the plan with that. The other changes are inside. We now have the floors all in, the bulkheads all in, and there's been a lot of panel alignment going on. Stu's been shuffling the panel alignment round on the front. The usual issues with alignments on these 1960s cars. They weren't brilliant coming from the factory. The aftermarket panels then are a little bit different again. Through nobody's particular singular fault, none of the bits line up particularly well. So we've been doing quite a bit of work on trying to make the parts line up. Or Stu's been doing quite a lot of work on making the parts line up. But he's pretty much there now. The seat boxes are now into the floor. He's working on the rear bulkhead. He's making the rear bulkhead at the moment. That was his job this morning until he's gone off to do these Cortina parts, to make the parts for the seats for that. I think yes, he's the other issue. The other bit that's got to be done, sort of the next step, is that once he's finished off the rear bulkhead, I think he's then at the stage where the car's going to come off and go on the rotisserie, so we can spin it round and fit the box. I don't know what you'd call it particularly. It's the damper box, basically the box that sits above the axle, which is a structural section that also carries the dampers in there. So he's going to be, that'll be the next stage once the rear bulkhead's in. I think there's a few little welds to finish off here and there. Then that can go on the rotisserie, be spun over. And there's various bits of weld finishing to do underneath and that box to go in above the axle. So yeah, really, really good progress. The finishing line is becoming within sight. There's a lot of panel gapping and tidying up of joints and things to do, and the roofs are going after blasting, but certainly the finishing line's getting close to being within sight now. I might just tell Gaz to, Gaz! 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 Can you pause that sander for a minute? You just pause the sander for a minute. Just going to do a walk around. It's just happened to coincide with the noisy sander. Yeah, as you could hear, Gaz is cracking on again with Utah. Since you last saw it, it's had the primary filler work finish blocked. And then been coated with a full coat of polyester over the entire car. And he's blocked the majority of that now, or at least initially blocked the majority of that. I'm pretty happy with gapping on a lot of it, not all of it. He's working on the bonnet fit, and now he's got into the engine bay. He's standing in the engine bay at the moment, and he's working on the engine bay area, just finishing all the corners. It's one of the trickier areas, just finishing all the corners of the engine bay, all the little crevices that are easily missed. He's working through all that at the moment. But yeah, last couple of days has been bonnet gapping, sorting out the edges there, bit of filing on the edges of the bonnet, blocking the filler work down the top of the wings. One of the quite awkward areas on a Mark II Jag is here. There's a transition where the wing goes from being there's a transition from being a step up to the bonnet shut line to a step down to the shut line, and the transition between the two is a really indistinct area in the panel. On the panel pressing, it's indistinct. Even in a fresh metal pressing, it's an indistinct area. Once you've then put some build on the car in terms of the polyester, it then it's a very, very tricky area to block and get exactly right. So he's been working on that, and the area where it becomes a recess here is quite tricky to block and get exactly the right shape. Even if the metal's perfect under there, it's still difficult. So when there's a few little ripples in the metal, it becomes extremely difficult to get right. So he's been working on that. And also this week, there's been some work on trial fitting trims, working out whether new trims are being used or old trims are being refurbished, making sure that the trims fit the holes, that the door handles fit the holes, that there's nothing unexpected in terms of the trim fit to the car, which inevitably there are some unexpected things. So then we have to go about solving those either by slightly reshaping bits of the car or slightly reshaping the trims. And one of the up and coming jobs which Stu and possibly I as well might be involved with is these rear trims. Because we've modified the back of the car, the rear trims we've got to basically remake the ends of in brass, and we're going to solder some new ends into those before they go for chroming to fit the back of the car. But we needed the car to be at an almost finished final shape before we can do any of that, because otherwise even a slight change in the build of the surface on the car will completely change how that trim fits. So it's now getting to the point where it's very close to correct, so we can actually shape those, do the final shaping on those trims. So I'd say with care that we've broken the back of the prep now on it. There's still a long way to go, and it only gets more difficult the nearer the end you get. But that Gaz has broken the back of the work on this now, and it's yeah, he's also broken his back, yeah, and certainly his arms are bigger than they were. But yeah, it's the end. The end's a long way away. The speck of light at the end of the tunnel is a very small speck, but you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think it's somebody with a torch coming the other way. I think that's pretty much covered everything.